What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another video today, and in this video I'm going to be taking a look at the NG Models November 2025 releases. Well, unfortunately, this release is not going to be particularly exciting in terms of geographic representation, as the hints that were posted all the way back on October 14th don't really have anything of significant note. The lone A319neo hint, that's a Chinese registration. A321neo is the same way. A321XLR is a French registration. Then we have two A330-300s, both of which are Chinese reg. We have two A350-900s. One of them is from Singapore, the other is from China. Two A350-1000s, a British and a Taiwanese registration. And then two 737-800s, which both of them are from China. So it seems like, based on what I've heard, allegedly, there's a couple of things to this that I do want to discuss. And the first thing is, seemingly there were more releases planned, but they've pulled out a good chunk of them, presumably American stuff, because there's been word going around that there's a bunch of new tariffs that are going to go into effect here in November. So whether or not that actually holds true, we'll have to wait and see. But obviously it is, I don't know if I want to say it's like scaring NG from doing more US releases right now, but it's kind of a similar deal to what we've seen earlier this year, where they didn't do a bunch of US planes for a couple months, and then the last couple months before this release, we did get some pretty solid US aircraft. But it looks like this month we don't have anything of note. But we're still going to cover it anyway, because that's what we do around here. Now, I don't have an official release list. I just saw, I believe it was on RedNote is where these first surfaced. So I just have a list of releases compiled here that I know for sure line up with what NG has announced. So to start things off, we have an Air China A319neo. So that is the lone A319 in this release. And of course, they always like to throw in some last minute ones. So here's a second Air China A319neo. This is just a different registration. I believe, it's just different tail number. And then A321neo, there's a Hainan Airlines example. And then two of them, so presumably different registrations because the images there are a little bit low res. A350 900, this is the Sichuan standard livery. They did all the Panda routes, so we won't see those, at least for the foreseeable future, unless they go back and do some re-releases of those. And then the second one, different tail number. And I believe 32 Mike Victor, that first one there, I'll scroll back to that. This is one that they did not take up, and I don't recall who's getting that airframe now, but I know it's being delivered to a different operator soon. Okay, and there's a third one here as well for Sichuan. And then we have this China Eastern A330. This is I think this is like a Disneyland resort thing. So you see Woody and Buzz here on this A330. It's a pretty cool livery, though. And then here's this Rida Air A321XLR. This has the French registration, since I don't think they have this just yet, but this is a pretty cool livery. Much different than what their 787 had previously. And then we have this Wizz Air example, which, that one's not on the actual list that they provide, which is to be expected because, like I said, they love throwing in last-minute additions. But we do have this Wizz Air A321neo, a very colorful special livery here. Air China Star Alliance A330-200. It does have the Air China titles on the tail as well, which I've never seen on a Star Alliance livery. Second example here, different tail number. And then Starlux A350-1000, one of many future releases that have surfaced. And that is all of the releases that I have right now. Because, just the other thing, too, is that it's been over 10 days since they posted the hints. And whether or not they're actually going to put them up on their Instagram and whatnot, I don't know, but I know that their socials through Instagram, it's outsourced to some other individual who's not really directly tied with NG. So whether or not they have the actual word that, okay, they're posting these releases now, but whatever the case is, it's obviously, to me, very disorganized. And the fact that it took them 10 days is I think it's a little concerning, just because it took them this long, even for a release that wasn't really going to have anything outside of aircraft from China. So whether or not there's some internal issues, I don't know. Now, you'll note as well that for the A350-1000, we were supposed to have some British Airways examples, and that did not come out. Now, Aviation Retail Direct, which is a UK retailer, they have the official licensing to make British Airways models. And they primarily have it done with AV400, which obviously they're renowned for their quality and whatnot, so I think that's a pretty good choice. But whether or not they actually got sort of angry at NG for announcing those BA A350s as future releases, I can't confirm. Someone messaged me and they were thinking that ARD got upset with NG for doing that. So whether or not they've taken action, I can't say with certainty. That's just purely speculation, but I figured it's worth mentioning just because the British Airways A350-1000 here is absent from the release list, and also the Singapore A350 as well. You'll also note that wasn't in that official list too. Alright, so it's been a few hours since I've seen the NG releases, and I do actually have a tangible list for all the releases. So I'm actually going to go through them, and as I do so, I'll provide my more conclusive thoughts with this release. So here's the Air China A319neo. So these are just the standard livery. The Bravo 32 Lima Delta, you see that one's the first one for Air China. And I need to go to the first page here. And then on the bottom, this bottom row of 4, you see the Wizz Air. That's a Wizz Air Malta, so that's from Southern Europe. That counts as a European release. And then this one technically would as well. Former XLR prototype for the upcoming Paris Air Show, and then a couple of Hainan A321neos, one of them being the first one of its kind for the airline. And then the next 4 are the A330s. So we have the Toy Story livery. One is an Ultimate Collection, so that was not noted initially. Air China Star Alliance in there. Pretty standard stuff from NG. The 3 Sichuan A350s. One of them has the revised winglets. And then the Starlux Carbon Fiber A350-1000. Ultimate Collection there, excuse me. And then here's a couple new ones that I did not find in my initial list. Are these China Postal 737. So I believe these are future releases. 2 of them are with winglets, and then one of them is with not. Without. With not. I don't know what I was trying to say there, so pardon me for a second. But yeah, 2 of them with winglets, one of them is without. And then on the... okay, so we do have some extra ones. NG Light Xiaomin 737, Universal Beijing Resort, and a China Eastern A330-200 special paints for the 9th Asian Winter Games. And then our 1 at 200s, we have the China Eastern. This is a Purple Peacock. The Delta 752 with winglets. And then there's some extra ones up here even more, so... Delta Airlines, the BCRF 752, which I actually did see in person once at the 2009 Sioux Falls Air Show. Got to go inside the plane, walked around it with my family when I was 5. Brings back so many childhood memories. I do need to get the 1 to 400 release of this, but it is so hard to find. NG did that years ago. And then for some of the other ones, we have a Xiaomin Max 8 and 1 to 200. I don't know if that's a light because it looks pretty bare of details, and the pricing is very low on that one too, just like with the other ones there, some of the other NG lights. And then there's a Snap Fit Comac C919, and then a Tibet Airlines A319, the one of the egg planes, the cartoon planes. So they're making another one of those there as well. So after looking through the full list here, it's still very disappointing that the variety that we've seen in the last couple months is just truly lacking. And it's frustrating as well, just because we had pretty decent expectations in the last couple of releases, but now we're kind of back at square one. And it's just unfortunate because, like I said, we had great momentum coming into this month, and then they put out the November hints, and it's just... it's not very exciting if you don't collect stuff from China. But if you are a Chinese collector, then this is definitely a release for you. So, I'm not here to bash on those collectors in particular. It's just more of a general frustration across the board for everybody else. Because, Gemini jets, they get a lot of flack for doing plenty of U.S. planes, but if we look back at some of their releases, they've had some space to put a couple of international planes in there, stuff from Europe or Asia or wherever else. They throw in a couple oddballs to keep collectors on their toes. So in that case, Gemini is a little more balanced when it comes to some geographical representation. But with NG, about 95% of this release is everything from China. Couple exceptions, the only ones being the, at least in 1 to 400 anyway, the Starlux, which is from Taiwan, the Wizz Air, and then the XLR prototype. Those are the only exceptions to their Asia first strategy. So again, as I alluded to previously in the video, there's new tariffs that are supposed to go in effect in November. They're like 100% or something, so the total tariffs will be 130%, factoring in the existing 30% tariffs. So that is likely deterring NG from making U.S. planes right now. So we'll see if those go into effect when the new month begins. And then we'll just gauge where NG goes with their releases moving forward. But like I said, it's pretty unfortunate that the releases that we have here are just, I mean, I can't really make any sort of storylines out of this. It's just not that interesting if you're outside of China, because you only get like 1 or 2 good things compared to maybe the 5 or 6 that we've gotten in the last couple of sets. And even then, there's still some complaints to be had, but it was a little better then. Now, at the same time, it does look like a majority of these are of wish list planes. So in that regard, I do give them praise for actually acknowledging the wish list and are doing planes that people are wishing for. Now, I don't know exactly like a full list of all the planes that were wish lists, but I know the Starlux A350-1000, that one was a wish list. I'm not so sure about all the other ones, but I'm guessing a couple more of those were also on the wish list. So again, they get a pass for acknowledging the wish list, but collectors are definitely going to want to see some more balance across, globally. Some stuff from Europe, some stuff from other parts of Asia, East Asia, and all that. And then obviously the US is a big market. So I really hope that they will start targeting other markets with regards to the wish list planes in 2026. So hopefully it will be better as we move forward. But as of right now, other than the fact that you have a couple of those little like unique oddities in there, like the cartoon planes, that and then the Delta 757s, the Starlux A350-1000, I can't really say too many good things about this release outside of all the things that are that's all I can really say in terms of positivity for this release. So hopefully for December things will be better, because we definitely need the turnaround to keep going, and this is sort of a setback for NG in my opinion. But let me know what you guys think. I'm definitely open to discussions in the comments, because these NG releases certainly get discussions going, whether or not they're positive or negative. It's just how the ball rolls. With that being said, thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.